Hello and welcome to the Newsome MMA betting podcast. I'm your host as always, Newsome, and in this episode I'll be breaking down UFC Fight Night 125 in Belem, Brazil. I have named this episode Chalk City due to the huge betting lines that were dropped on earlier this morning. There's a lot of heavy favourites on the card, and to be honest I see a lot of them winning as well. But I'm really looking forward to the card, and anyone that knows me well knows that Brazilian cards are my favourite to watch just because they never disappoint. So moving straight into the fight breakdowns as always, I've got my bets together. I'll be breaking those down in full for you. Anything else that I haven't bet on the card, I'll just quick fire off at the end, tell you who I think will win and why. So moving straight on to the first bet, I've got Eryk Anders, and I've got 4 units on Anders to win at minus 257. I bet that today at Marathon Bet. They've got some good lines going on today, and I just think it's a bit of two things. So it's a bit of a fade on Machida. I bet Brunson against Machida in Machida's last fight. That cashed quite easily. And to be honest with you, for the same reasons that I've bet Brunson, I'm betting Eryk Anders as well. So Brunson and Anders do have some similarities. They both hit hard. I think Brunson hit slightly harder, but the difference is Eryk Anders has got much better technique in his striking. And they've both got wrestling as well. Again, Brunson the slightly better wrestler, but you know, Eryk Anders does close the distance, and if it's not quite going how he wants it to go on the feet, then he's got that option to take his fighters to the ground as well. He's got powerful takedowns. He's got good top control, ground and pound. He doesn't just lie there. He does work, and he's always looking to get his opponent out of the fight as quick as possible. But yeah, I just really like Eryk Anders in this spot. I think what we saw from Machida against Brunson finished him well. He clipped him with a left hand in one of those flurries that Brunson always throws, and it wasn't a clean flush shot to the chin, but he still managed to hurt Machida and drop him, and ultimately that was the start of the end. So it does leave huge question marks over. Well, not so much question marks over Machida's chin. It does tell me that Machida's chin just isn't what it used to be, or maybe just isn't there at all anymore. So he came off that knockout against Brunson, which wasn't that long ago, you know. So that's another thing. It wasn't a devastating knockout where he was completely unconscious, but you know, he took a beating, and it wasn't too long ago, and now he's being put back into the lion's den again against Eryk Anders, that again is another power puncher. Then before the Brunson fight was Romero. He got KO'd there as well. Again, you know, not a bad loss, but the fact is he's coming off 2 back-to-back knockout losses, and the last one wasn't so far away. So then you've got Eryk Anders. I think that he'll be the aggressor in this fight. Machida will fight his normal counter-striking karate style, whereas on the back foot, looking to counter anything that his opponent throws. The difference is between Anders and Brunson, though, and I know I keep comparing the two, keep on comparing this Anders fight to the Brunson fight, but you know, it's got a lot of relevant information there. So the difference between those two is, I think Anders will be a little more patient. I think he'll be more selective in his strikes. I think he'll throw what he needs to without leaving himself open to a counter. So if Machida is going to counter Anders and have some success, I think he's going to have to work for it. Anders won't jump in there and, you know, throw a crazy flurry like Brunson did. He'll just select his shots, and once he's doing that, the pressure will gradually increase, and I'm not totally convinced how Anders wins this fight, but he's got a couple of paths to victories, and I'm going one way, but I'll talk about them both. So the first path to victory, I think, like I say, he's going to be the aggressor, press Machida. I think he'll eventually start cutting off angles to the point where Machida is sort of pinned against the cage, and at that point I think he could start throwing strikes inside the pocket, really work his boxing to the body, to the head, and then if he does start to get a bit of momentum with a combination, I think ultimately that'll be the end of Machida's night, because once that momentum starts and he really starts swinging bombs, he'll miss a couple, land a couple, miss a couple, land a couple, but those couple that are landing will really start hurting Machida, and I think eventually Machida will drop and then just wait for the referee to save him. The other side to this is if it's sort of not going his way, and he is struggling to find the gaps in Machida's defence, and he's against the cage. I think he'll just pressure, put himself on Machida. He'll be the stronger fighter inside the octagon for sure. And I think he can find takedowns, get a takedown, get on top of Machida where Machida isn't great off his back, and then if he's pressed against the cage as well, he could be really smothering, and then he could just start landing some ground and pound to finish Machida that way. But one thing's for sure, I really don't see this fight going to a decision. I don't think. Well, there would be some question marks on Eryk Anders, what he looks like in the 4th and 5th rounds. I know he has had 5-round fights before that he's won, but at this level, this intensity away in Brazil, what is he going to look like in the 4th and 5th round? But to be honest, they're questions that I don't think need answering right now, because I really don't see it going to a decision. At some point, Anders is going to press Machida that much, and start teeing off on him. One of those punches is going to put Machida down. Really struggling to find a path to victory for Machida here. Like I say, I think maybe just keep on the back foot for 25 minutes. A little like what Holly Holm did against Chris Cyborg, but obviously actually win the fight. But again, I don't see a scenario where Machida can do that for 25 minutes without Anders really piling the pressure on. If he starts running away, Anders will just get hold of him and put him on the mat and work on him that way. So again, my second path to victory. Ultimately, I think that it's going to go the first way. I think he's going to press Machida up against the cage, cut off angles, start teeing off, and I think one of the shots is going to land, put him down, and the referee will have to jump in to save him. So, for a 4-unit bet, it is a big step up for Anders. That's something else I've not mentioned. It probably is the best fighter that he's ever fought, but he's not fought cans either before this. He's just he come off a win against Rafael Natal. He knocked him out, and then in his last fight, he was fighting. I forget his name. The Mexican guy, Marcus Perez, and that guy had an absolute iron chin. I can't believe he didn't put him away. But again, looked a bit of a crazy fighter. So he's not fought absolute cans either. It is a step up, but 4 units at -257. That's probably the best line I think I'm going to get, and that's why I hit it at that time. I think it's going to end at about -350 this line, because I just see people just really putting money on Anders to get this done here, because like I say, other handicappers aren't daft. There's not a lot of path to victories for Machida to win here. So I do really favour Anders. So yeah, 4 units, -257, and that's to win 1.56 units, I think. So moving on to the next breakdown, we've got Sergio Moraes against Tim Means. So this is another pretty sizable bet. They all are. I've only got 3 on the night, but I've got 3 units on Tim Means at -182. And I just think this is a really bad stylistic fight for Sergio Moraes. Sergio Moraes, he's a grappler. He's got a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's fought competitively in Jiu-Jitsu as well. Got some world championship wins, but recently, within the last 4 to 5 years, he's not really tried to get any of the fights to the mat. He's been happy standing with guys, and it's a bit strange really to think that someone with those sort of credentials in grappling wouldn't try and utilise it in the cage. But I mean, fair play to the guy, because he did manage to rack up a 7-fight unbeaten streak. I know that included a draw, but it's still unbeaten. So, and he managed to do that standing, and he didn't fight anyone that great stood up. But the fact is, he was getting the job done. You can only beat what's in front of you. Now, with Tim Means, this is going to be a lot different for Moraes, and he's going to really have to think about what he wants to do in regards to a game plan, because Tim Means is probably the best fighter that he's ever fought. I mean, if you look back at his record, if you think there's a better striker, please drop me a comment. something just to let me know. But I personally don't think there has been a better striker than Tim Means that Moraes has fought. But I still think Moraes will go into the start of the fight with a similar game plan that he's had in previous fights. I think that he'll start. Well, all fights start standing, but I think he will engage in striking. And one thing that we can take from Moraes' last few years of fighting is we have seen a lot of his stand-up, which is great because now we're in a situation like this where we sort of know about his grappling. In some scenarios, if he'd just used his grappling and all, in his submission game all through that 7-fight unbeaten streak, there'd be a lot of question marks in this fight. But I think it's pretty obvious to me anyway that his striking just really isn't that great. Tim Means will pick him apart on the feet. He'll use his jab. He fights long. He fights tall. Distance management isn't brilliant, but he's, like I say, he fights tall. He fights long, and that's tricky for some guys to really find the way inside, especially when they're not a technical striker as well, which Moraes certainly isn't. And I think Means will just pick it in. And I think mid to late fight we'll then see Moraes start to shoot for takedowns. But I mean, Moraes averages just over one takedown per fight. So I'm not sure what sort of takedowns he's going to be able to apply to Tim Means to get him down, because the problem Moraes is going to have is he doesn't shoot takedowns in the middle of the cage often. So, your doubles or your singles, the way he normally takes his fighters down is he'll press and he'll get his opponent to get with the back against the cage. He'll clinch and he'll drag him to the mat like a lot of these Brazilians do. That if they're not wrestlers, that's sort of their way of getting the fights to the mat. But the problem you've got is Tim Means isn't easy to take down. Yes, he has been taken down before. It's not a 100% record. I think it's like mid 60%, which is quite decent in all fairness at this level of MMA. So he's not easy to take down, and he's nasty in the clinch. If with the short elbow, short knees, getting the whizzer in, turning him on the cage, then getting dominant positions and then landing more strikes. The dude's nasty in the clinch. So I just see Moraes is going to have a lot of problems in this fight. He's definitely going to have a problem standing. He's sloppy. He wings big overhand shots. He doesn't offer much in power or much in output. He don't flurry. He's just really not great on the feet. And then, like I say, if he tries to take Means to the mat, he's got to clinch with him, got to work his takedowns, but Means will be landed in that clinch. That is one aspect of his game that is very, very lethal. And he's cut a lot of people with sharp elbows and stuff. I just think at some point in this fight, and I'm predicting it's going to be the third round, I think that Moraes will just run out of ideas, just run out of options, and Means will end up piling that pressure on when Moraes has mentally given up, and he'll get that finish in the third round. The one thing I will say for Moraes, if he can get Means down to the mat, he will have an advantage there. Means isn't the worst fighter you'll ever see on the mat. He's tricky himself. He's got long limbs. He can stand, maneuver about. But ultimately, I think that Moraes has got an advantage on the ground in top control. But that's if he gets him down, and that's if he has the time to work. I think that if he has a minute and a half or more, I think Moraes might, he could submit him. That's his path to victory. But like I say, I think it's minimal. I'm not sure he's going to be able to take him down. And like I say, for the first half of the fight, I don't see him trying to. I think he'll try and stand. He'll get picked apart. He'll start to feel himself losing the fight. That's when he'll start shooting. And then when he starts shooting, like I say, I think that's when Means might start landing in the clinch and starting to get the better of him there. Moraes runs out of ideas. Means puts him away in the third round. So, yeah, 3 units on Tim Means at -182. I was expecting the odds to be a lot higher, to be honest. I know they started higher. I think they started like -260. They came down a bit. I bet it. It's starting to move a bit further back up again. So I've sort of hit this at the right time, in my opinion. So yeah, I see a lot of value in the line. And then moving on to my next breakdown, and it's the last bet of the card for me. I've got Alan Patrick, and I've got 3 units on Alan Patrick at -204, and he's fighting Damir Hadzovic. Now, Alan Patrick is someone that I watch a lot of, and I like it when his fights come onto a card, because he's the exact type of fighter that I like betting on. The only aspect of him that isn't the perfect fighter that I like to bet on is he's not a Dagestani born Russian, but he's a powerhouse Brazilian grappler. His striking's not the best. It's okay. He's not got the best defense either, but if you look at how hittable he is, I think he absorbs something like 1 strike per minute, which is absolutely nothing. Very low for the UFC, which is great. But even though his strikes aren't the best, the one thing that his strikes are tailored for is closing the distance on his opponents, getting a hold of him and ragging him to the mat. And that's exactly what he does. He ragdolls his opponents, and he will spam takedowns until he gets it. He's not afraid to go for a takedown and not complete it. If it's not completed, he'll use his striking again. He'll close the distance. He'll get a hold of you, and he'll get you down. If he gets you down, you stand straight back up. He'll still have a grip on you. He'll just rag you back down again. That's just what he does, and that's what I love. That's one aspect of MMA that I really love, not just from a betting perspective. I just love the pure dominance in those sort of performances. We saw it against Stevie Ray, who was a great fighter. We saw it against Damian Brown, who was a great fighter. The one person he did struggle to take down was John McDessie, which I called in a podcast a few cards ago, and that's the reason I never actually bet against John McDessie. Turned out that John McDessie just legit have good takedown defense. So, I just see the exact same thing happening again now. When you look at Damir Hadzovic, he's got good striking. He got knocked out by Taisumov, but before that knockout, he was standing well with Taisumov. They were trading. He wasn't totally getting the better of him. Taisumov's a beast, a monster in his own right, but he was looking okay. And that's a positive thing when you're comparing someone with Taisumov, when you've been in the cage with him. So he's looking alright. But the one thing that Taisumov didn't offer in that fight, and really allowed Hadzovic to flourish, is he didn't offer a takedown threat. And I think Hadzovic does fight really, really well when that takedown threat isn't there. He can really let himself go. He can really be fluent with his striking, take chances with kicks and knees, and not think, oh shit, if I do this, I'm not going to get taken down. And that's where he really does fight at his best, in my opinion. Completely different scenario here, though. He's going to know about the takedown. He's not stupid. Either him or his coaches or both will have watched tape on Alan Patrick or know of him already, and they'll know what he's about, and they'll expect that takedown. Now, what that's going to do, and I know I say this a lot with fighters that I bet that like takedowns, but it's true, and you see it so often. The takedown threat halts the striking of the opposition because they are hesitant to overcommit, just in case they get too close, or in case they get kick caught, in case they just make that one slight mistake that ends up with their back on the mat. Because when the good grappler's on top of you and it's hard to get up, you're probably going to lose that round. So then that's a round down. You've got to go the next round, and if that mistake happens again, that's another round gone. Suddenly you're losing the fight. So it's a legit thing, and I see it a lot in MMA. So yeah, I think the exact same thing's going to happen here. Then you question Hadzovic's takedown defense. Can he get taken down? When you look at his last fight against Marcin Held is a below average fighter, to be polite, and he took him down 4 times. 4 times he took him down, and he controlled him on top. And Hadzovic was losing that fight until the roll to the leg lock. I don't know why Held did that, but then he got flash KO'd with that knee. He was absolutely down on that fight, and he was going to lose that fight without a finish. And that's Marcin Held. The one credit I will give Held is, he's a good grappler. He's got good top control. But you know who else has got good top control? Alan Patrick, heavy on top, good grappling, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt as well. But a far better takedown artist than Marcin Held. So I just think that if Hadzovic is getting taken down at will by someone like Held, he's absolutely going to get taken down at will by someone like Patrick. And I think that's the way it's going to go. Patrick's not known for his finishing ability. He wins most of his fights by decision, just by controlling on top, doing enough for the referee not to stand them up, but not doing enough to process the finish, which, I can see why some people might hate that type of fighting, might find it dull. But, the good money earners, the good money trains, these guys will win you money. So I valued this at like minus 250. That's where I saw the line. I'm getting minus 204, which is great from my perspective. I think that Alan Patrick goes into this fight straight away, looks for takedowns. I think he'll get a takedown per round. I'm not sure Hadzovic will stand up off his back. He really didn't look like he had a lot to offer with Held in regards to getting back to his feet. He sort of was accepting position a little, so a little too often. So I'm not sure, but if he gets up, Patrick will drag him straight back down. But the bottom line is Patrick will win every round, and I think he'll take a 30-27 win on the scorecards. So yeah, that's it for the full breakdown. There's only 3 bets on this card for me. Like I said, I had about 7 leans on the fight. When I watched the tape, I listed the 7 fighters that I wanted to bet on. I put a price next to them all. Most of them I just didn't get, but it's one of these cards where, and I'll go through some of these in the quick fire round in a minute, but it's one of those cards where there is just so many favourites that look like winning the fights. Like sometimes you'll get a nice split. Like lately we've had a couple of close fights with some good underdogs, and it's been fun to bet those sort of fights. But like I say, now we're on a card where it looks like a lot of the favourites are going to win, and because of that there's a lot of chalk and the lines are just really high. So I've bet 10 units so far over the 3 fights, which is way more than I like to bet normally. But you just got to suck it up and move on. It's one of those cards that don't happen that regularly, where you are having to take wide odds. So yeah, moving straight into the quick fire round, we've got the first fight, John Dodson against Pedro Munhoz. Not a fight that I was ever intended on betting, just purely because of the stylistic matchup. I think they match up really, really well. They're a bit of a pick. Well, they were a bit of a pick 'em. I think Munhoz has come into the underdog at about plus 125. I think last time I saw him, so still not a big underdog. But I don't know what it is with John Dodson. I think he could be digressing a bit. He don't look as fast as he used to look. He's still got the skills for sure, but I think Munhoz is actually going to be the faster fighter in this fight. I just think he's a lot quicker in and out of the pocket. Dodson will have the power advantage. He's not knocked anyone out in a while, so I don't see him knocking Munhoz out. But I just think it's going to go to a decision. It's going to be a 29-28 one way, possibly a split decision. But in this scenario, in this stylistic matchup, I just have to favour Pedro Munhoz and his speed. Like I say, just in and out the pocket, just peppering shots. I just think it'll look better on the scorecards. He'll slightly outland Dodson. And I'm not saying Dodson's slow. Dodson is one of the quickest fighters that the UFC's ever had. But I don't know. I just don't think is as fast as what he used to be. With old age. Well, he's not really old, but with age, one of the first things that goes is your speed. So I just see that slightly with Dodson, not too badly, but just a little bit, and B, just because I think Pedro Munhoz is just going to be quicker. So yeah, I'm going Pedro Munhoz to win by, I'll say, a split decision. Then next up was one of my potential leans. I priced her up at minus 200. I knew that I was never going to get that. I was fully aware of that. But listen, when I'm making my notes, I have to put her down. She has to. the fighter that I think is going to win so much has to be on that list, even though I know I'm not going to get what I want, but still counts as a potential lean. And yeah, we've got Valentina Shevchenko against Priscila Cachoeira. I think that's how you pronounce the surname. Now, Priscilla really, I've seen a bit of tape on her. She looks really wild, really sloppy on the feet. Shevchenko is just going to absolutely destroy her in this fight. She'll beat her wherever she fancies beating her. She'll pick her apart on the feet if she wants, or if she wants to take her down to the mat, she'll submit her. Really don't know what Priscilla's gonna offer to the fight, and in some places Valentina Shevchenko's -800, so that really speaks volumes for me. I really don't know what else to say. Valentina will destroy her. At the minute, I don't think there's anyone in that division that will beat Shevchenko. I think that you're not going to get a good price on Shevchenko for a long time yet. She's going to be -600, -700, -800s for the next few fights until, personally, I think someone steps in from a different division and challenges her, and at that point we'll start to get better lines on Shevchenko. But until then, don't be expecting to bet Shevchenko, and honestly I wouldn't advise it either. There's literally no value in betting a -700, -800 fighter, because as much as the path to victory for her opponent is so slim. She could trip, break, twist her ankle or break something. What happened to Anderson Silva against Chris Weidman, kicking and breaking a leg. Very, very, very unlikely it's going to happen, but it's just not worth the return on -700, -800 in MMA. It's just not. And obviously the 4-ounce gloves as well, so you never know. One shot on the button could put someone out. My pick's Valentina Shevchenko to win by TKO, but man, don't bet this. The next one, we've got Michel Prazeres and Desmond Green. Now, this has been a fight that's just racked my head that much. I decided not to bet it. So, bit of background for you on myself. Michel Prazeres is my #1 money train. Is the guy every time I bet on him, he's never lost for me. I've had him a 2-1 underdog before, plus 200. I've had him as favourites. I've had him in all kinds of matchups, and I've always cashed on the guy. He's an absolute monster. Love his style of fighting. Similar to Patrick, just more of a freak, I think, in regards to his power and his strength. But then you get Desmond Green, a fighter that I'm actually not that much of a fan of, even though he's a D1 wrestler. But what Green offers in this fight is elite takedown defense, movement, speed, cardio, and that's where I think that Prazeres is going to struggle. So if Prazeres can't get his fighter to the ground, which we don't see very often, by the way, he pretty much takes everyone down he fights. But if Prazeres doesn't take his fighter down, he's definitely not technical on his feet. His boxing isn't great. He does offer hard leg kicks, but that ultimately isn't always going to win your fights. He's not that quick. His cardio is questionable. He misses weight a lot because he's huge for the division, so that also doesn't help his gas tank either. So really, the way to beat Prazeres is to be able to defend a takedown. Now, you look at Des Green's last fight against Rustam Khabilov, and the fight metric tells you there was 3 takedowns for Rustam Khabilov, but I don't recall. It depends how they're scoring the takedowns. I think he might have put him on his arse a few times, but I don't think his back was ever on the mat. And for me, that's where the takedown's complete, when the fighter's back's on the mat. I could have completely blindly missed that. I don't know. I just do not recall Des Green getting dominated or getting taken down flat on his back on the mat. And if he did, he must have bounced up so quick for me not to register that. But Rustam Khabilov was spamming takedowns on Des Green. And I'm going to say the words again. Khabilov is a Dagestani-born Russian. These guys take people down for fun. He was struggling so much to get Des Green to the ground, and they weren't bad entries on the takedowns. He was entering the takedowns perfectly, locking his hands up. He just had such a hard time getting him down to the mat. And this is Rustam Khabilov that takes pretty much everyone down as well, similar to Prazeres. And then what was most shocking for me out of all of that is at the end of round 3, Des Green actually took Khabibov down in the middle of the cage and took his back instantly before the bell went. And for me, that just showed me a little something special in what Des Green's got in regards to his wrestling. Now, take the wrestling aside, let's say Prazeres can't get him down, which I think he is going to struggle. Green is by far the better striker, better movement, in and out the pocket, better cardio. He'll piece Prazeres up on the feet for sure. So for me, it all comes down to, can Prazeres take him down? I don't think he can. And I've watched tape really wanting to bet Prazeres here, and what ended up actually happening is me dropping Des Green down on my list of betting. But to bet against my number one money train, at first I was thinking, well, I need plus money to do that. I don't really want to bet against my money train. And I got the plus money. You can currently get like plus 125. I think it actually went to plus 135 earlier on today. You can get the plus money, but again, I was just looking at it, I think I can't bet. I know it might sound stupid for anybody listening to this, but Prazeres is my money train. Is a freak of nature with power and takedowns for that division. Everything just screams at me not to bet Des Green in this fight, and I've decided to pass on it for that reason. I still think Green's going to win. He's still my pick to win. If you like an underdog in the fight, if you like an underdog in this card, you want to bet a dog. For me, this is the best dog to bet. I think Des Green's going to have the tools that he needs to beat Prazeres, but for me, I'll happily sit out, and if Green wins, then fair play to him. I'm not going to regret passing on that bet, because when you're capping, you don't really want to be betting against your money train, even if you think it's a bad fight for him. And then for me personally, I just really hate to bet against people that are always looking to get the fighter to the mat. I would rather just sit it out. So yeah, this quick fire is turning into a full breakdown, but this was one that was really racking my head so much I decided to pass. But ultimately my pick's Des Green to win by a 29-28 decision. So in the next quick fire, we've got Tim Big Dick Johnson against Marcelo Golm. Now Golm's my pick, and he was on my list as a potential bet as well, as a lean, but I wanted plus money. And the reason why I wanted plus money is because Golm looked great in his last fight, absolutely awesome, but he was fighting Colombo, who was an absolute bum. He's not a good fighter. He's a can. I think he might have retired after that fight. If he's not retired, the UFC will cut him. He's not great. Marcel Golm got put in there to put Colombo out, and that's exactly what he did. Well, he didn't knock him out. He ended up submitting him, but he dropped him first, beat him up a bit on the floor. Now, Tim Johnson is, again, for heavyweight, is a bit of a weird one, because there's not many like him at heavyweight that does have a lot of decisions, will try and grind out a decision, even though he's quite big. He won't usually pursue a fight to put him out with one punch. He does really like the grind, embraces the grind, has that drag down wrestling style, and he was looking okay, and he was one of those fighters where you really couldn't bet against him because of his style, especially at heavyweight. He seemed to neutralise all these big powerful guys, but in his last fight he got knocked out by Junior Albini in Albini's debut. There were some rumours after the fight that Johnson had some injuries and stuff like that, but I don't buy into that. If you're in the cage, you're in the cage to fight. If you're injured, don't complain about it afterwards. It was your choice to get in that cage and scrap. And credit to the fighters. I'm not taking anything away from fighters that do that. They're absolute warriors at the end of the day. But Albini knocked him out. And for me, the reason why I wanted plus money on Golm is there's the question mark on how good Golm was. There wasn't a lot of tape on him prior to his last fight against Colombo, and then we saw him against Colombo, and you can't really judge that great because of the things I've said about Colombo. But with Johnson, it just strikes me as one of those types of fights where one guy's looking okay, being Tim Johnson. He has a bad loss, gets knocked out, and then we've got an up-and-coming guy that's being made to look great, and now they're matching the two together, and all the hype's on Golm. He's at home in Brazil again, and there's something that I can't quite put my finger on with this matchup. I think Golm's going to win. If he wins, I think it's got to be by knockout. I think if it goes to a decision, that'll be because Tim Johnson's just Tim Johnsoned him. So I think Golm's going to win by knockout. But yeah, it's just I think the line's definitely off, and if it was a lot closer or plus money, I probably would have played Golm. But no, I can't. Something's just telling me that there's something not quite right here, and it's all going to lean one-sided. And I tell you another similar scenario actually with Junior Albini. I bet Junior Albini to knock Arlovski out just because of what I saw with Tim Johnson, and Arlovski was the one getting knocked out by everybody and looking on the decline, and then Arlovski ended up beating Albini by a decision. So it's that type of scenario that I see here. So ultimately my pick's Golm by knockout, but yeah, nothing that I was interested in betting on. Moving on to the next one, we've got Thiago Santos against Anthony Smith. I think the line's ridiculously off here. He started okay. I think it opened at like minus 190 or something like that to Thiago Santos, but progressively through the day, I think it's been bet up to like minus 300, which is just downright disrespect on Anthony Smith, because these two are going to come to bang. And although I favour Thiago Santos to win, because I think he's a little more technical and he's got that brutal kick that'll hurt your leg, it'll hurt your body, and it'll knock you out clean if it hits you on your head. But Anthony Smith's a gamer, man, and he will fight best against somebody that wants to fight him. He tends to lose a lot of his fights when the fighter's his opposition's backing away, and got quick movement or trying to get him to the mat. That's where Anthony Smith really does lack in regards to his fighting abilities. But Santos isn't that dude. Santos is going to want to come at Smith. Listen, someone's going to have to move backwards, someone's going to have to move forwards. I think they'll take it in turns. But one thing's for sure, this is going to be a banger. I don't think it'll go the distance. I'm not confident to play under 1.5 because I think it'll end at around that sort of time. But yeah, my pick's Thiago Santos, but at the current odds, all the value is on Anthony Smith, and that's all I'll say. But yeah, my pick's Thiago Santos to win by TKO. In the next fight, we've got Douglas Silva de Andrade against Marlon Vera. Yeah, I've got Vera to win this, probably by decision. I don't see anyone getting the finish here. Vera, I just think he'll be too quick. His striking will be a little too good for Andrade. Andrade is just like a little bull, like a little tank, just running forward and trying to land big shots. But I just think Marlon Vera is just going to be a little too savvy for that. And ultimately, I don't see the fight being too great. But yeah, I'll go with Marlon Vera to win by unanimous decision. Then next we've got Eryk Alcantara against Joe Soto. Again, another very, very tough fight to pick, and I'm not sure if you can bet this at all. I am siding with Eryk Alcantara reluctantly. He's looked shocking lately, but I don't think Joe Soto's the worst stylistic fight for him. I think there could be a lot of good scrambles on the ground. Alcantara, say what you want about him on the feet, but on the ground he's so good. But so's Joe Soto. Good scrambles, good position, good sweeps on the ground, and yeah, I think it could be interesting if it goes to the mat. But if it's stood up, I just think Alcantara might just edge the striking over Joe Soto. I don't think either of them are that great at striking, but if I have to give it to anybody, I'd probably go with Alcantara. So I think Alcantara might just have the edge on the feet, and he'll probably just have the edge on the mat as well. If it comes down to a cardio battle, if it does turn out to be a really, really quick back and forth, then I'll favour Soto. And you can't really predict intangibles because you don't know what the pace of the fight is going to be like. So yeah, I'll go with Iuri Alcantara to beat Soto by a decision. Next, we've got Deiveson Figueiredo against Joseph Moraes. Now, I'm really, really looking forward to this fight. And I'll say right now, I was tempted to wait for the fight doesn't go to the distance prop. I've seen a lot of people betting the over 2.5, but I think this fight's someone's gonna finish this fight. I don't think it's gonna go to a decision, and I'm siding with Deiveson for a couple of reasons. First of all, size. I just think he's going to be the bigger dude on the night. I think he's got the heavier hands. I do worry if it goes to the mat for Deiveson. I think that Moraes is going to have the better grappling, only slightly though. Figueiredo is a Brazilian wrestler, so you don't really see a lot of that. Well, you don't see it every now and again. You'll see a fighter with that sort of style from Brazil, but I don't think he's going to pursue the takedown here because Moraes has got really, really good scrambles and is serious when he gets to the mat. I think he's really, really good. I think he's a good prospect. I really like the guy, but I just think in this spot, I mean, they're both unbeaten as well. Someone's going to have to take that first L, and I just think in this spot, I think Deiveson could potentially use his wrestling to keep the fight standing. And although Moraes has knocked his opponents down before and shown that he can have power in his strikes, I'm not sure if that power is going to be enough to knock someone like Deiveson out. So ultimately, I think Deiveson will keep the fight standing, and I think he'll knock Moraes out maybe mid to late fight. He could go the distance, but I mean, I think you'll be able to get fight doesn't go the distance at plus money, which I think is a really good value bet. But ultimately, the reason I've passed on it is I said the same thing last week when I passed on Gregor Gillespie and Rinaldi. Fight doesn't go the distance, which turned out to be a really bad pass, but it happens. But yeah, it's just more of a gamble than me lining up path to victories and just thinking, okay, I'm pretty certain that this isn't going to go the distance. So, like I mentioned earlier on with Thiago Santos and Anthony Smith, if the fight doesn't go to the distance was, like minus 175, minus 200, I'd probably bet that because I'm pretty confident that fight is not going to go the distance. With Figueiredo and Moraes, I'm sort of counting on or relying on a few different things to happen in that fight for that bet to come in, and those things are a little bit intangible. So yeah, I couldn't bet it, but yeah, my pick's Deiveson Figueiredo to win by TKO. And then the last one on the card, we've got Maya Stevenson against Poliana Viana. Now, I've not really seen any of these. I've not taped it. Didn't see any point. I don't really see too much in regards to having any sort of value either. And I'm just looking at the lines now for it, and we've got Poliana at best price minus 325. Way too much chalk that I'd ever play in a women's MMA fight. So ultimately, that's the way I'm going to side. She's that price for a reason. She's got 4 knockouts to her name out of 9 wins, which is really good for women's MMA. The one name that I definitely recognise on her record as well is Amanda Ribas, who at one point did look like a good prospect. She knocked her out in Jungle Fight in round 1. In fact, she's got a lot of round 1 finishers. So yeah, I think she's going to probably knock Stevenson out. But listen, when I say that isn't with any sort of confidence whatsoever. Like, I haven't taped it. I'm just literally going off the records here, and sort of producing a bit of MMA math to come up for a pick with you guys. But yeah, definitely not something that I'm confident in. But that does it for the card. So a little bit of a short breakdown in regards to the full breakdowns. We're only having 3 bets, but I'll quickly run back through them. So I've got 4 units on Eryk Anders at minus 257. I've got 3 units on Tim Means at minus 182, and I've got 3 units on Alan Patrick at minus 204. So 10 units in total. That'll do it for this card. I really just want to say thank you as well before I go. I'm having a lot of people interacting with me on YouTube, comments. I've had so many subscribers over the last few videos as well, so I really want to thank everybody for that. And also, since I rebranded to the Newsome MMA betting podcast, now I'm riding solo on this channel. I've had a load more extra views as well on my videos every week. So yeah, I really just want to say a big thank you to everyone. And like I say, if you ever want to talk I don't really talk too much in depth over YouTube. If you ever want to talk in depth, just add me on Twitter at Newsome_MMA. DM me or message me to follow you back. If you want to chat fights with me, I'll happily go backwards and forwards with with anything that you disagree with me. It's MMA. It's a sport we all love. This is what we want. We want to talk about MMA. MMA Twitter is great. It's an awesome place for just being able to open your phone and just have so much conversation with mixed martial arts. Anything that you've missed on this podcast, please go to my website at newsomemma.co.uk. You'll have all my written breakdowns there for all the fights that I've bet on. I've also got fighters on future cards as well that I bet on. I've got a big 6-unit bet for UFC 223 that you can go and check out and look at on my site. We've also got all the other prediction videos and podcasts from all the other good YouTube content creators all in one place on my website. We've got a new featured section which has got articles coming from Amanda Jacobs in Australia, Stuart B in Malta. So much content for you guys to get your teeth stuck into. So again, newsomemma.co.uk, go and check it out. Also, if you want to see my track record, my third party tracked and verified record, that's betmma.tips/NewsomeMMA, and that'll do me for this card. So thanks a lot for listening, and I'll see you next time.